About on a Wednesday morning edition of RKW, we are brewed up by 8th and Roast with a full studio this morning. Alongside Ramon Foster and Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling. Robert Walsh making the show happen, and we are very pleased to be joined by Tennessee Titans President and CEO Burke Nihill. The hire is official, and there is lots to break down, Burke. Good morning.
Always good to be here with you guys.
Thank you. Thank you for
Glad to
coming
have you
in.
here.
A lot to get to, like I said, but Burke, I want to start with your new head coach and Brian Callahan. A lot has been discussed from Ran Carthon, from Amy Adams-Strunk, and from you about a new organizational structure of Tennessee Titans football. How does Brian Callahan fit as the leader on the field of this new vision you all have?
Yeah, Brian Callahan is the template, just plain and simple. We started off going into this search trying to be disciplined about creating a profile. You know, before you start putting names to it, before you start doing the research on experience, what specifically were we looking for? And it was character traits, it was experience sets, it was league reputation, league network, and from the beginning, Brian Callahan, from the research, was at the top of that list. And as the interview process played out, I think we interviewed 9 people and a ton of impressive candidates in that mix. But from the very beginning, Brian started with a lead and ended with a lead. He just was exactly what we were looking for to partner with Ran Carthon to build a consistent championship contender.
Within this press release that came out about 20 minutes ago, there are new roles for Ran Carthon and for Chad Brinker. And Ran promoted to Executive Vice President and General Manager. Chad Brinker promoted to President of Football Operations. Tell us more, if you will, about the breakdown of responsibilities for those two and just what is changing within the front office.
Yeah. I think we'd acknowledge there was a bit of lack of clarity last year, and that just wasn't acceptable moving forward. There needed to be stability. There needed to be clarity around who was doing what in the building. Structure at the end of the day isn't what's going to create alignment and collaboration, some of those buzzwords you hear out there. It's the people, but at the same time, the structure needs to be clear. And so we've arrived at a clear structure and a way forward that we believe is going to build a championship program. Ran Carthon was the template last year in terms of a general manager that Amy was looking for to take our organization into a different generation of the NFL. His experience, his skill set, his network was exactly what she was looking for. And there's a palpable sense of excitement letting Ran do more. He's earned it. He last year did a great job in the role that we were asking him to do, building a roster in a shared experience with the head coach. But we think that he's got just a lot more to offer in terms of building an entire program, to building a team, to developing a team, to leading a team that includes full roster control, includes oversight of the head coach, and just going after it and getting it on the grass, building a great championship team.
You guys didn't use a search firm this time around to find a head coach. How did you get to Brian Callahan and make that decision that he was your guy? Because this is in-house the way you went about it.
Yeah, look, Ran Carthon, Chad Brinker, Anthony Robinson, they were the search firm. These guys have decades of experience across the NFL. Their networks are vast. There's obvious candidates out there. There's less than obvious candidates that are out there. And we did not leave any stone unturned. But at the end of the day, there wasn't some sort of New York high-rise office that was going to be able to get the depth of information that Ran Carthon can get about these candidates, about who they are as people, to be talking to players about what it is like to be coached by these coaches. And so they absolutely crushed it. Ran in particular was a masterclass at identifying what we wanted, staying disciplined at what we wanted, and doing just deep research. And then at some point recruiting, on making sure that our number one candidate felt like this was a place he wanted to be.
That's a beautiful process. And, a lot was made about the, letting go of Coach Vrabel and, moving forward from there. And some people wanted the question answered as far as vision and, structure of this team moving forward. Why was it hard to say in those moments, like what a vision was with incomplete that the setup of this team was at the moment?
I think a head coach vacancy you want to leave a little bit of room for a new head coach to help, define, what they're looking for, right? At the end of the day, let's just be really honest. These are buzzwords, right? What is a vision? In my mind, a vision is a shared belief about where we're going and how to get there. Plain and simple. And there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that the entire organization, but in particular Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan, have a shared vision about where we're going and how we're going to get there. We are going to be a football team that is built for sustained excellence, consistent championship contention, and we're going to do it together. It was remarkable in the interview process. Again, exhausting. 3-4 hour interviews in many cases across Zoom over 2 weeks. Brian was the last in-person interview. It started off as an interview, right? People asking Brian questions, Brian answering the questions. At some point, Amy Adams-Strunk, Kenneth Adams, myself, Rand, Chad Brinker, Anthony Robinson are in the room. And at some point, that interview changed from an interview to a workshop on how they were going to build this thing. It just naturally evolved into it. Rand and Brian went from Rand asking questions, Brian answering questions, to them just riffing and getting excited, and everybody was sitting up in their chair, listening to them talk about, for example, we're not looking for guys that are going to fall into a 1-2-3 receiver bucket. We're looking for what defines our perfect X receiver in this system, what defines our perfect Z receiver in this system, to the inch, to the weight, to the athleticism score. When do you take an exception, and how does a coach need to buy into an exception, and how many exceptions can you have on a team? And these guys were just building a program to end an interview. We hadn't extended an offer yet. Brian didn't know it was his job, but it was the beginning of the next generation of Titans football. That's vision, right? Is them talking together about how we're going to get where we need to go, which is delivering to Nashville a championship caliber team consistently.
Titans President Burke Nihill, kind enough to join us here on RKW this morning. When Amy Adams-Strunk put out her statement this morning on the Brian Callahan hire, I found it really interesting at the end, and I love this, when she said, at each step of his career, speaking of Brian Callahan, he's shown flexibility and intelligence to make an impact. How crucial was it to get a guy that is not only going to do things as a leader and take control, but also listen to his players, listen to things that are coming from the outside? It's a two-way street type of thing.
That was one of the factors that had Brian standing out among other candidates from the beginning, was his diversity of experience. You can have really good success in a specific situation, but our situation is not that situation, right? Team to team, we've got a totally different situation than where a coach would have come from if they're having success. Brian, the difference between coaching Peyton Manning and Matthew Stafford and Derek Carr and Joe Burrow, those are totally different personalities, and he's had to adjust his coaching style to each one of them. What works for Peyton Manning doesn't work for Matthew Stafford, doesn't work for Derek Carr, doesn't work for Joe Burrow, but the combination of having to learn, sometimes the hard way, that you have to adjust your coaching style, and you take the principles that ultimately led to a success, but you have to modify them to whoever it is that you're coaching at that moment. He among all of the other candidates, had the right diverse experience to get ready for this moment to be a head coach for the Tennessee Titans.
I also loved the statement by Amy Adams-Strunk that said, "This is not my father's NFL." And she went on to say, we're advancing. The NFL is new age, and there's technology and science that goes into it. Can I elaborate on that?
Yeah, so, it's not her father's NFL. I would argue that it's not Amy Adams-Strunk's NFL from 2015 when she stepped into this role. The evolution of this league is happening fast and furious, and I think the 4 teams that you see in the championship games this weekend are ones that are at the tip of the spear of how they're using every competitive advantage they can find across analytics and sports science and technology. And we're on our way, but we're not where we want to be yet in terms of all of those categories. And the business has become just so much more complex than it was back in 1970, 1980, even 2015, where there was just a traditional model. You got a general manager, you got a head coach, pin your ears back and go get it. It's complicated. There's more people. There's more processes, there's more systems, and what Amy wanted to do was put Rand Carthon in a position to be the leader of the football team. building a roster, building a coaching staff, building the team environment, but also recognized that if he was also going to be worried about technology and groundskeeping and where analytics are going and sports science are going, that's a distraction from the main thing, right? And so the structure that she's arrived at, we believe, is completely sustainable. It's clear and will allow us to really fight the battle on both fronts, right? Keeping the main thing, letting Rand pin his ears back and just build a awesome, sustainable football team, while also being able to stay at the forefront of, not just where the league is today, but where is it going to be in 27, 28, 29.
Titans President Burke Nihill, our guest this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. The Chad Brinker part of this, Burke, you've mentioned a little bit in his promotion to President of Football Operations. What does that role look like for him? Is he under the authority of Rand Carthon? Is that something that's reporting to the owner? Kind of what's the detail on that?
Yeah. Oh, look, anybody who's in our building can tell you, whether you started on Monday as a ticket office employee or whether you're me, we all report into Amy on some level. And so that's certainly true of Chad. And Chad's responsibility is to be basically the umbrella for the football organization. In some ways, there's an acknowledgement that in my role, especially overseeing a new stadium being developed and as our business gets more complicated in the day-to-day, we needed somebody that could be bringing it together across this increasingly complicated business of analytics and sports science and the rest of it. And Chad's background is really, he's a unicorn. That's how Rand has referred to him. He's a football guy through and through. He was an Ohio running back. His dad was a coal miner. Went to Ohio University. Got a shot in the NFL as a running back. He's a football guy, and he went right into scouting with the Packers. But along the way, he stopped and moonlighted and did an MBA program at Northwestern. And while he was there, he's just got a very curious mind. And he was meeting with some of his fellow students and professors that were into software, or in some cases, it was a Navy SEAL, for example, he's talked about. And he'd be picking their brain about, how could software development potentially be something he could bring back into the football environment to create a competitive advantage? What can you learn from a Navy SEAL about organizational leadership, organizational cohesion? And so he's just a perfect fit to be bringing this whole thing together, getting Rand everything he needs to go be the best general manager in football and build, incredible teams, while also pulling all of these other pieces together. He's got the credibility and he's grounded in football. And then he also has this business executive sense about him.
Burke, you guys under your leadership have had the motto of win, serve, entertain of Tennessee Titans football. And it is entertaining to have a great quarterback and score a lot of points in a brand new shiny stadium that is on the way, of course. As you guys spoke with candidates, how important was offensive experience, quarterback development? Amy mentioned in her conversation with Mike Keith when this original process began, we've got a promising young quarterback and we want to surround him with the best resources possible. How much did that factor into this process for you?
Well, I would say it's entertaining to win.
Absolutely.
First of all, right? And I think recognizing that we do have a promising young quarterback, regardless of whether somebody was an offensive coach or a defensive coach, they had to answer the question about how would they develop a quarterback and how would they provide a consistent environment for a quarterback so that Will can continue to get the coaching he needs, have an offense that's built to set him up for success, and continue to develop to what we believe and Brian Callahan believes is to be a top-tier quarterback in the NFL.
Burke Nihill with us, President and CEO of Tennessee Titans. Burke, I have to ask this question to get us to where we are right now. We'll treat this process like a starfish. They regenerate. We don't regenerate. So I don't want to say cut off a limb, okay? But you had to cut off a couple pieces, man, to actually get to this point. And that's a hard decision, let go of a coach that's beloved in this area and has done some really good things here in Nashville. What was the room like for you guys when you have those conversations and decide we're moving in this direction? As Kayla said, and you even said too about Miss Amy, the NFL that we knew even 6-7 years ago is not the same. So how do you get to that point and honestly probably have to have that pit in your stomach to make that final call?
Yeah, Amy has never backed down from having high expectations.
Yeah.
And she's also never backed down from hard decisions that are in the direction of those high expectations. I was watching A Few Good Men with my boys this weekend, introducing them to an all-time classic in my mind. And I don't mean to suggest that she's, ordering code reds and covering up code reds, but it reminds me of Colonel Nathan Jessup. Like, you want her on that wall. You need her on that wall to set those high expectations and make those hard decisions, even when they're not easy, even when they may not be popular. And she has proven that she's ready to do that over and over again. And it's small ways that we in the building see that not everybody else sees. Challenging people to be better, to do better. And then in some cases it's in ways that play out in the public, that she makes those those hard decisions. And I know, I work with her every day. I appreciate her leadership. I appreciate her high expectations. And we want her on that wall. We need her on that wall. And because she's in the position that she is, we're going to be having a parade or two in this city, I believe.
Let's do it. And starting that parade too real quick is this side of it for me, the freedom that head coach Brian Callahan has with his staff. Do you have, I know that's his answer, probably a timeline on when you guys want to kind of set his staff, the ability for him to be able to pull and poach if needed from different rosters? I know a lot of people have brought up his father, Bill Callahan, has been a part of his team. Those types of decisions. How long do you think of a timeline?
Oh, I mean, Rand and Brian are talking about it.
Yeah, that's the
today,
stuff right there. Yeah.
They were talking. That was one of the things they were talking about in the
Yeah.
interview, right? You can tell them starting to collaborate on this and bring it together. Ultimately, it's Rand's style. Rand is not going to tell Brian Callahan, you need to hire this guy or you need to hire this guy. But what Rand's going to do is he's going to help stress test Brian's ideas and ultimately help him in any way he can to deliver the best NFL staff. I mean, that was a major differentiator between the candidates that came in, was their vision of how the staff would come together, their thoughtfulness about who they needed in what roles, their experience set, their what they've done well, and why he would believe that this would translate to what we've got happening here in Nashville. And they're getting after it right now. So it's a process that takes some time, certainly, but I think Brian's going to build an incredible staff, and Rand is going to be there to support him in doing that. I mean, again, back to his network. If there's a position coach that either we need some recruiting, or there's a gap in Brian's conviction about a position coach that he had in mind, Rand is the type of master networker and understands the NFL so well, he'd be able to deliver 2 or 3 other people that he believes would fit Brian's vision that Brian would be able to interview and bring in for position. But I know this for a fact, at the end of the day, while Rand is overseeing the coaching staff, his approach is, he's going to just make sure that Brian feels incredible about every coach that's on his staff.
And for everybody who's listening, they'll get their first chance to hear from Brian Callahan.
1:00 tomorrow.
There we go.
1:00 tomorrow. We can go on and on with you, but it seems to me you guys have, the way the structure's been set up in the press release too, have kind of said football is its own side. The front office is its own side. And as a business, we make this thing work together. That seems to be the reshaping that we're witnessing right now in Nashville.
Yeah, that's right. It's let's put strength on strength.
Yeah.
Right. Let's take the strength of people across our building, whether it's finance or marketing or a training staff or a general manager or a head coach or somebody who's focusing more on the analytics, technology, and everything else. Let's let them do what they do, and let's go get this thing together.
Burke, you guys have had a lot of details and new videos on a new stadium as well that have come out recently. It is an exciting time to be at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park, I'm sure. And as that becomes more of a reality as well, and we get closer and closer, just how much positive energy you feel like is in that building right now?
Especially the last 2 days, it feels great. I mean, it's felt great for a number of years, but as the football vision is just kind of slotting perfectly into place with Brian and a structure that everyone believes is a sustainable long-term approach to building a championship program. You couple this with all these other things that have happened. I mean, it's remarkable to look back to 2015 and think of the team that Amy Adams-Strunk stepped into and where we are today across the board. There's just excellence in every category because there's people that are really talented that have wanted to bring their talents to Nashville to work for this organization and selflessly move this thing forward. And certainly the stadium plays a big part of that. Now, the football team being in great shape to move forward. We've referred to ourselves every once in a while as a 60-year-old startup. We've got 60 years of experience. We're not starting in a garage. We've got traditions to lean on, people to lean on, but also, we're not just going to do things the way everyone else did it. Like, we're going to challenge ourselves to be better in everything that we do all the time and be innovative. And it is a great feeling in the building.
And I hate to cheat the station one more time, but we talked before you
Buck
came
can
in the
wait,
room.
it's fine.
I know. We talked before you came in the room, and I think where this fan base deserves, and the organization does too, a level of sustainability.
Yep.
That's what we're looking for. That's the draft picks. That's the front office. That's the personnel. That's the coaches. That's everybody involved. If you're a Titan, you're going to be a Titan for a while.
Yes. There's a sign on our boardroom that says it all matters. And it does. Everything matters in our organization to getting this thing right and keeping it right. And I mean, in my mind, this is a mark the moment for our organization where we're going to look back, and on the football side of the house, this is going to be that watershed day that it all came together. And it's a long road, right? We've got free agency in front of us and the draft in front of us, and this isn't a quick fix sort of organization. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the sustainability, in terms of building towards something that is going to be a sustainable championship caliber roster, sustained excellence, mark the day.
Burke
Awesome
Nihill
stuff.
has been our guest this morning. The first of many interviews you will hear with Titans officials, and a 1:00 press conference tomorrow for new head coach Brian Callahan. Burke, I know it's a busy time. Thank you so much for making the time for us.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Burke.
Thank you, Bert.
That is our show. The Buck Rising Show is coming up next. If you missed any of it, subscribe to Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Wherever you download podcasts, you can hear every interview, every segment of a loaded show here this morning. Lots more to discuss as the day continues. The Buck Rising Show is next.
But you must remember at all times, your Twitter fingers and your mic is always hot.